I wanted to come to Lagos first because of the vibrant developer and entrepreneurial ecosystem that you guys have here, right, as Ime was just talking about. And, so I've been going around the world to different cities, and we've been doing town hall Q&As and sitting down. And I wanted to come to Lagos first because of the vibrant developer and entrepreneurial ecosystem that you guys have here, right, as Ime was just talking about. And, so I've been going around the world to different cities, and we've been doing town hall Q&As and sitting down with people in the Facebook community and hearing from them about how they use our services and what we could do better. And here in Lagos, I wanted to not just sit down with people in our community, but sit down with developers and entrepreneurs. And the reason for that is there's this energy here. I mean, you feel it as soon as you get off the plane, right? And it's, I think the world needs to see that, right? And, here in Lagos and across the continent, things are changing really quickly, right? I mean, the economy is shifting from a resource-based economy to an entrepreneurial and knowledge-based economy. And you guys are the ones who are leading that change. And not only remaking Lagos and Nigeria, but shaping the whole continent and influencing how things are going to work around the world for the next generation. And I think that that's a story that is underappreciated in a lot of parts in the world. I think that people often don't really have a sense for how much energy there is and what the entrepreneurial spirit is here. And so I just wanted to have a conversation today and talk about that. And it's great to be here with all of you guys. So what I'm hoping to do is, I'm going to share a Facebook tradition with you, which is, we do these town hall Q&As every Friday at the company, where I sit down with any employee who wants to come, and they can come and ask me any question they want. And it's a great opportunity not only for me to share what I'm thinking about or to answer people's questions that they have about the company, but also for me to learn, right? And that's what I feel like I'm here to do is, this is my first trip here. I have a lot to learn. I want to hear what's on your minds, the technical questions, the entrepreneurial questions that you guys have about building businesses, about the ecosystem, anything that you want. I'm here to learn, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to talk to you guys today. So thank you for coming out, and let's do this.
So before we go, I just want to ask, can we do another round of applause? Can we show him a proper, warm Nigerian welcome? Much better. Thank you, my country people.
Guys. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a first question. Well, the question is from the thread. It's from someone named Achilles, and he asks, Mark, what impressions do you have of Nigeria on your first visit? Do they align or contrast with impressions that you've had of the country and its people before you came?
Well, the thing that's striking is the energy, right? The entrepreneurial energy. I think when you're trying to build something, what ends up mattering the most is just who wants it the most, right, a lot of the time, and who cares the most to build it. And, you feel that here. As soon as you get off the plane and land and start talking to people, you feel that passion and that entrepreneurial energy. And I can tell you two stories just from last night, right? I talked to, probably no more than 100 people, and was just really blown away. So the first story, I stopped at this training program on Della, right? That my foundation invested in to help train really talented folks across the continent to be world-class engineers and work for companies around the world. And I sat down and had the opportunity to meet this woman, Blessing Eboe. And she told me the story about how she applied to the program, and the first time she didn't get in. But that didn't stop her. She showed up anyway. And she showed up again. And they figured, all right, we got to give her a try. And she went through the training program and she crushed it. And now she is a top engineer working for a multinational company. If you have that attitude, you win. Another story. So right after that, I went down the street and I stopped by this little store and met this woman, Rosemary Njuku, who is selling connectivity nearby using the Facebook Express Wi-Fi program. So she already had a shop, and she was already selling stuff to people who were coming by, and she decided, hey, I could grow my business further if I also started selling connectivity to the people who were nearby. So she got hooked up with some folks who work with Facebook and people in the Facebook community, and hearing from them about how they use our services and what we could do better. And here in Lagos, I wanted to not just sit down with people in our community, but sit down with developers and entrepreneurs. And the reason for that is there's this energy here. I mean, you feel it as soon as you get off the plane, right? And it's, I think the world needs to see that, right? And, here in Lagos and across the continent, things are changing really quickly. Right? I mean, the economy is shifting from a resource-based economy to an entrepreneurial and knowledge-based economy. And you guys are the ones who are leading that change. And not only remaking Lagos and Nigeria, but shaping the whole continent and influencing how things are going to work around the world for the next generation. And I think that that's a story that is underappreciated in a lot of parts in the world. I think that people often don't really have a sense for how much energy there is and what the entrepreneurial spirit is here. And so I just wanted to have a conversation today and talk about that. And it's great to be here with all of you guys. So what I'm hoping to do is, I'm going to share a Facebook tradition with you, which is, we do these town hall Q&As every Friday at the company, where I sit down with any employee who wants to come, and they can come and ask me any question they want. And it's a great opportunity not only for me to share what I'm thinking about or to answer people's questions that they have about the company, but also for me to learn, right? And that's what I feel like I'm here to do is, this is my first trip here. I have a lot to learn. I want to hear what's on your minds, the technical questions, the entrepreneurial questions that you guys have about building businesses, about the ecosystem, anything that you want. I'm here to learn, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to talk to you guys today. So thank you for coming out, and let's do this.
So before we go, I just want to ask, can we do another round of applause? Can we show him a proper, warm Nigerian welcome? Much better. Thank you, my country people.
Guys. Thank you.
Okay, so we have the question is from the thread. It's from someone named Achilles, and he asks, Mark, what impressions do you have of Nigeria on your first visit? Do they align or contrast with impressions that you've had of the country and its people before you came?
Well, the thing that's striking is the energy, right? The entrepreneurial energy. I think when you're trying to build something, what ends up mattering the most is just who wants it the most, right, a lot of the time, and who cares the most to build it. And, you feel that here. As soon as you get off the plane and land and start talking to people, you feel that passion and that entrepreneurial energy. And I can tell you two stories just from last night, right? I talked to, probably no more than 100 people, and was just really blown away. So the first story, I stopped at this training program on Mandela, right? That my foundation invested in to help train really talented folks across the continent to be world-class engineers and work for companies around the world. And I sat down and had the opportunity to meet this woman, Blessing Eboe. And she told me the story about how she applied to the program, and the first time she didn't get in. But that didn't stop her. she showed up anyway. And she showed up again. And they figured, all right, we got to give her a try. And she went through the training program and she crushed it. And now she is a top engineer working for a multinational company. If you have that attitude, you win. Another story. So right after that, I went down the street and I stopped by this little store and met this woman, Rosemary Njuku, who is selling connectivity nearby using the Facebook Express Wi-Fi program. So she already had a shop, and she was already selling stuff to people who were coming by, and she decided, hey, I could grow my business further if I also started selling connectivity to the people who were nearby. So she got hooked up with some folks who work with Facebook and this Express Wi-Fi program that we have to empower local entrepreneurs to spread connectivity. And I asked her, so how did you make this transition in your business, right? How did you, if people were coming to your business for one thing, how did you train them or teach people that they could come and get connectivity? And she's like, well, it actually wasn't easy. I had to print out flyers and go all around town. I had to evangelize myself. I think she said she even hired dancers. And and she got it done, right? And she told me that she now, in the months that the program has started, now has 3,000 customers paying for connectivity. And she told me that now her connectivity part of the business is bigger than the original part of the business that she had. So she's running 2 jobs, 2 companies. That's entrepreneurship, right? And I don't care what field you're in, what you're trying to do. I think when people talk about entrepreneurship, a lot of people, they talk about vision and ideas, and that stuff is important. But I think what really is important is hard work and just this drive. If you want to do it, if you care more than everyone else, then you get it done. And I think as soon as you step off the plane here in Lagos, it's in the air. You feel it.
All right. We're going to take the next question from the room. And we have a question from Alex.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Alex. My question is this. Facebook is big, but the truth is that there are lots of persons that are still not on Facebook. I have friends that are not on Facebook. And if I have friends that are not on Facebook, it means there are those in rural communities that are not on Facebook. So what strategy does Facebook have in place so for those in rural communities to have access to these technologies and use these technologies?
Yeah. So if you want to connect everyone in the world, then making sure that everyone has access to the internet is a really important thing. Right? And it turns out that across the world, more than half of people don't have access to the internet. And here in Nigeria, that's true too. So, whether what you care about is connecting people with their friends and family, or helping people start businesses, the internet is one of the most fundamental parts of infrastructure that I think needs to exist, right? And here my trip here is mostly focused on entrepreneurship and developers, right? And I just have met so many people who are building things that you meet people like I went to the CC Hub in Yaba yesterday, and I met this woman Temi Giwo, who's building this company LifeBank, right? It organizes blood donations so that people can give blood and it gets them to the people who need them. And you meet someone like that and you're just like, all right, this is a thing that needs to exist, right? And if everyone had the opportunity to build something like this, then the world would be a better place. It turns out, so I've been to a lot of different cities, I think that people all around the world are trying to build stuff like that. If she can actually pull it off, then she'll show a model that'll impact not just Lagos and not just Nigeria, but countries all around the world, right? And if you had everyone on the internet, then you'd have more shots at getting that right. So, we have a 3-part plan for spreading internet. The first part is building infrastructure, right? Making it so that no matter where you are in the world, you can get access to a signal. So that's stuff like, we're launching a satellite later this week to beam down connectivity. We've built these solar-powered drones that are basically like a cell phone tower in the sky that can go over really remote rural locations and beam down connectivity to make sure that networks spread and reach everyone. So that's the first part. The second part of the plan is you need to make the network affordable, right? Because it's not much good having the infrastructure if people can't afford to use it. So there are two parts to that. One is building cheaper infrastructure, so that way the companies that are building the infrastructure can charge less for it and still be profitable and sustainable. And the second, I think, is on app developers, like all of us, to use less data. Right, in the last few years, we've had this big effort at Facebook to make it so that our apps now take 1/10 the amount of data that they did a few years ago. So that means that if you're using our apps now and you're paying by the megabit, you're paying 1/10 of what you paid a few years ago. So that makes the internet more affordable. And the third part of the plan is just making sure that people understand why the internet might be valuable for them to use. Right, and that might be. That's the most counterintuitive for entrepreneurs who I speak with, because you guys are all on the internet, right? So, and a lot of you probably grew up with it and kind of take for granted that this is something that's going to be really valuable. But if you grew up and you didn't have access to the internet and someone showed up and said, hey, do you want to buy a data plan? Your first question would probably be, what do I get for that, right? Why do I want to pay for this even if I have the money to do that? So, we're working on programs like Free Basics, which is now live in 22 countries across the continent. To make it so that people can get access to some basic internet services for free and don't have to pay in the beginning. And then what we find is that people start using the internet and then pretty much immediately want to start paying for the full thing because they realize how valuable it is. Programs like Express Wi-Fi, what I just talked about, what Rosemary was selling in her store. They have a program where the first 2 weeks of internet are free. Right, so people use it, and then after that they come and they buy connectivity. So I think those three steps, right, spreading access, lowering the cost, and spreading awareness are the key things. And if we do that, then my hope is in the next 10 or 15 years, we'll get the other half of the world that's not on the internet today on, and you'll have more ideas like Temi's, more people will be building stuff like that, and the world is just going to be a much better place.
So the next question is a question that came in from Adefunke Akinola. And they asked, how easy was it for you to move from software development to running a company? So probably a question that many of you have. And what sacrifices specifically did you have to make?
So I'm an engineer, right, like a lot of you guys. And for me, engineering comes down to two real principles, right, that I think a lot of you guys are going to be able to relate to here. So the first one for me is that you think of every problem as a system, and every system can be better. No matter how good or bad it is, you can make anything better. And that goes for whether you're writing code, or you're building hardware, or your system as a company, or you're working on the education system or government. These things are all systems, and they can all be improved, and kind of you have this engineering mindset that's going into that. The second part I think about being an engineer is that you break down problems from the biggest stage down to smaller pieces that you can then solve. So, I was getting started with Facebook. I was writing code, right? Like a lot of you guys in your teams probably were and are. And writing code, you're trying to build some functionality. You break it down into different functions and subroutines that you hone them and you make them good, and then you can call them and use them repeatedly, and you're kind of building up from there. Then, you start building a team, right? And then you're not writing as much code anymore. So that's probably something that I gave up that I'm a little sad about. But it's actually not so different, right? Because instead of writing subroutines and functions that add up to an app, the pieces of what you're doing stop being functions and start being organizing a team of people who are hopefully really good engineers and spreading the different work across them really well and taking advantage of the different strengths of people there to make something that's bigger than the sum of its parts. And then you get to the point where you're running a company, right, a big company, and it's not so different from that, right? Instead of managing individuals, you're managing teams, right? And if you built it well and you have different strong teams that kind of do their job well, then it's not so different from writing code where you're writing different functions and subroutines. So, there is an elegance to writing code that I miss, right? The code kind of always does what you want and people don't. But people surprise you to the upside a lot too. And But I do think that there's something really fundamental to this engineering mindset that I think you guys share, right, as developers and entrepreneurs, and people who are thinking about how you're going to remake the economy and the country here and the continent and really the whole world, right? And I think if you keep your eye on that, you can solve a lot of problems that way.
Okay, so we'll take a question from the room. Anybody who has a question, please indicate.
Can I just say, before we came, I guaranteed Mark that Nigeria is a place where everyone would have their hands high with the question. Do not embarrass me in front of my boss's boss, please.
Don't be shy. Okay. Introduce yourself and then ask.
Yeah. Good day, everyone. I'm Edoga Chukwode. My question is, when you started Facebook and you're still writing codes, there is one serious aspect of any software, which is marketing. How did you handle the marketing? How was it easy? How did you transit from being the guy writing Facebook? What strategy were you using to market Facebook at that initial early time when it was still a startup?
So what we've always found is that getting the people who use your product and enjoy it to evangelize it to their friends is by far the most effective way to market a product. Now, we're probably a little lucky, right? Because, that's what our product is communicating with your friends. So it's probably a little easier than normal to take something like Facebook and give people the tools to spread it to their friends. But, we've tried a lot of different things at Facebook. We actually used to have a traditional marketing team that did communications and thought about stuff like buying ads to help grow our community. We still have that for other things, like helping explain what the company does in different ways. But we used to do that for growing our customers, right, in our community. And what we found was that this engineering mindset, right, we could actually make a bigger impact by having an engineering team that instead of having people work on ads and videos that they'd put out into the world and try to convince people to sign up to Facebook, if we had an engineering team that was focused on building products that empowered people in our community to spread Facebook to the people that they wanted to get on, then that actually worked a lot better. And that's been, I think, actually one of the biggest secrets to Facebook working, right? Because if you're building a social product, one of the biggest features of a community like Facebook is that your friends are there, right? It's not much use if, no matter how many features we build, if you want to share with your friends and your friends aren't on there and you're not connected with them, right? So that was probably one of the key things that we needed to do. And I think that there are lessons for that in all the different businesses that you guys are thinking about building. I think having kind of an engineering-style growth team has been a really valuable thing. And thinking about this, again, as an engineering problem rather than just kind of a traditional business problem, I think is a really powerful way to approach the world.
So this is a question, I'll wait to get to you, but there's a question that a lot of people had on the thread, and that was, what are your plans for WhatsApp? And in particular, what are your plans for developers on WhatsApp?
Yes, that's a good question. So right now, our primary priority for WhatsApp is to continue growing the community and connecting more people around the world. There are about 1 billion people now who use WhatsApp every month. And there are about 5 billion people in the world who have phones. And we kind of think that everyone who has a phone does text messaging, right? Does anyone here not text message on their phone? Marku, you work at Facebook. We have to talk. It's like, we need our people to use the internet. All right. So, sorry, I'm glad that only one hand went up, and a little bit sad that it was my employee. But regardless, the point stands. So we got, I'm sure he was joking, but it's, but either way, we'll talk later. So we think that the primary thing that we need to go do for WhatsApp is not just go connect a billion people. It seems like it's a big community, but if you think about it, it's only about 20% of the actual opportunity. Right? So that's got to be number one, right? Because our long-term potential for WhatsApp is going to be dependent on how big the community is. Now, that said, we are starting to think about how people can connect to businesses through WhatsApp too. And some of you guys might have seen, we just did this update to our data use policy on WhatsApp last week. And this was actually the primary reason why we wanted to do this, was to make it so that, let's say you're a business and you have a Facebook page and maybe you're building a bot for Messenger, and you also want to connect with people on WhatsApp, so you can kind of know who your customers are and talk to them with a unified voice across all those different services. You figure we own these different services, you should be able to do that. That's a thing that we should provide to businesses. And that's a thing that we want to be able to do long term. So, if you're a business, you should be able to keep track of who your customers are and communicate with them on a steady basis through WhatsApp. If you're a person who's using WhatsApp, you should be able to reach out to the businesses that you interact with to get customer support or buy things or do whatever you need. That's definitely a big part of what we need to do long term, but we're just at the beginning of that journey. And I think for the next few years, the big thing is just going to be how do we get billions of more people on the service.
So we're going to take another question from the room, and I think you have a question, Shay.
We'll get to you guys.
Okay. Hi. Do you want to stand up? Sorry. So my name is Shay. I'm a media entrepreneur in Lagos. I'm co-founder of Big Cabal Media, and I'm interested in Oculus. I've used 3D, and I know a few people have used it. It's really awesome, but the question is the Oculus platforms. Right now, the price point is seemingly a bit high, and the question is, what are plans to bring it to a price point that will be more accessible to people in developing markets?
Yeah, it's a great question. So I think you're absolutely right. Right now, it's more expensive than we would want it, and there are also fewer apps than there will be in a few years, right? So the ecosystem is going to keep developing, right? We're going to get the hardware to be less expensive and better, and there are going to be more things that you can do with it, which I think will justify for more people getting it. But it could be a while, right? I mean, it could be 5, 10, 15 years until it's a really mature thing that reaches the scale that smartphones are at today in the world. But I do think we'll get there. So not just on VR, but think about this for AR. Right, so I'm looking around, and a lot of you guys are wearing glasses. Right? I wear glasses, too, when I'm not wearing contacts. And I think in the future, we're going to have an AR product, augmented reality, where you have glasses, just like what you're wearing, but instead of being able to see the world and have corrected vision, you'll also be able to put virtual objects in it. Right? So let's say we want to play chess, so I'll just be able to go, all right, here's a chessboard. Here, you move your piece, you got the glasses, I got mine, you beat me. We'll never speak of that again. That's going to happen, right? Except the you beating me part. Although I don't know. I'm not that good at chess. And if you think about it in the future, so we'll get the price down, right? So it'll be, say we get to a point where those kind of glasses cost, $100, right? Instead of, Oculus today, the Rift costs $600. Then one of the things that I'm really excited about is not only that that's going to start being affordable enough for a lot of people to use, right, about as affordable as a phone is today, but think about how many things you're not going to need to buy when you have that. Because think about all the things in your life today that could actually just be an app in that world, right? You might own a TV, right? You probably paid $50, $100, $200 for the TV. In the future, that'll just be a $1 app. Right? I mean, it doesn't need to exist. It doesn't need to be a physical thing. Right? It'll just be something that in your glasses, it's on the wall, you see it, and you can buy it for cheap. All right, so your glasses just paid for themselves because now you have a computer and a TV. Right? And it's kind of amazing when you think about it, how many of the things in your life don't actually need to be physical. Right? So if you take out all the food, which needs to be real, and the chairs and the stuff that has to support you and the tables that you put your other real stuff on. Think about all the other stuff, the art, right? The paintings, anything that's a screen, anything that's a game, that's an interaction, that's about information, doesn't actually need to be physical. Which, again, think about how hard it was to build that chessboard, right, that we talked about. Right? It's, someone needed to actually physically, carve or produce those pieces, and not that many people around the world have the resources to do that. But in a world in the future where a lot more people have the internet, anyone's going to be able to build that chessboard app that we just played that quick game on that you crushed me at. And that, I think, is going to unlock a lot of creativity. Right? So you're going to get entrepreneurs all around the world building stuff that people can afford, and it's going to be much cheaper than I think the ecosystem is today. So that's the future that I hope we reach. It's going to take a while to get there, so I think we all have to have patience. There are not only ecosystem, but also scientific breakthroughs that I think we need to make on the way there. But that's what I kind of keep in my mind is where I want the world to be in 10 or 15 years. And I think if we get there, that's awesome, right?
Okay, for this next question, I'll take one from the room. Okay. I'm lazy, so I'll go here. If you could stand up, please, and tell me your name. All right, I'll hang on to the mic.
Okay. Hi, my name. Can you hear me?
I can.
Ani, and I work for you. And so my question is, do you find that there's need, is it an assumption, or do you find that there's need to actually customize current products for the emerging markets? Or is that an assumption that people just make without, experiencing the market firsthand? And how do you deal with that? How do you address that? How do you deal with that dichotomy?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I think you're absolutely right. I mean, that's, there are a bunch of different ways that we think about customizing the product. Right? So one is language, right? Where, the internet isn't very useful if the information that you're trying to find isn't in a language that you know. Right, so one of the things that we've done is we've tried to spread Facebook so it's in as many languages as possible by giving our community the power to translate the service themselves. Right? And one of the things that we're proud of is that we reach a lot of different dialects and languages around the world that no other internet service is available in because of our community is the ones doing the translation. Right? So earlier this year, I think we opened up Hausa. Right? And we've already committed to, in the next year and a half, opening in, I think, 10 more dialects and languages. And that's an important thing. If you want people to be able to use the service, they need to be able to read and understand it. It's not just what language the service is in, it's also the content in it. Right? So I mean, the service can be in that language, but if there's not good content that people want to see in it, good videos that you want to watch, or things they want to read, then that's not that useful either. So a lot of what I think we need to do is work with the local entrepreneurial communities to make sure that we're building stuff and content producers in those languages. Right? So one of the things that I'm hoping to do while I'm here is visit Nollywood. Is that what you call it? So I think that's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, it's one of the best resources in the world for building content, right, and producing content. Only an engineer would call it building content. They would kill me for that, but it's who I am. So that I think is a big part of the whole thing, right? There's also a lot of technical work that I think goes into customizing the service for different areas, right? And that's not so much cultural work as it is that there are different kinds of infrastructure around the world, right? So we want to make sure that Facebook loads quickly for people who are on a 2G network, a 3G network, a really new LTE network, right? And they have very different characteristics in terms of how fast things will load. And we don't want the service needs to load quickly, right? I mean, people don't want to use the service; it's going to take half a minute to load. So we have to make sure that it works on all these different network conditions around the world, right? And that's a big part of our job too. And we take all this really, really seriously. So increasingly, I think we're spending more time on kind of customizing and making sure that we get that we make sure that the services work really well all around the world. But it's a big part of the mission, right? If you're trying to connect everyone in the world, the community right now has 1.7 billion people. But there are 7 billion people in the world. So there are more than 5 billion people who we need to reach in their native language in the technology stack that they're using. Yeah.
Great. So I think we'll take a question from the room now. See a lot of hands up front. And yes, so please tell us your name.
Morning, Mark.
Hey.
Pleasure to be here. So my name is Tunji. So I run a mobile learning platform. And what we do is we gamify the day so that kids get 2.4 gig every month for achieving their learning objective. And
that's awesome.
What I want to ask is a two-part question. First question is, how do you see Messenger and WhatsApp evolving? So are you guys going to allow them to evolve separately? And secondly, I haven't yet forgiven Ian for not taking me along to the pitch for your foundation. So how do I get to pitch to you to invest in our product? Thank you.
That's the spirit. That's what I'm talking about. All right. We'll make sure we get your email after this. So, all right. I respect that. All right. So, Messenger and WhatsApp. Here's what we're going to do. They're actually different. They're different communities and different products. And the strategy is not to combine them over time, but to have each play to their own strength. Right. So, if you think about WhatsApp, is really a text messaging replacement, right? And it's faster. It's more reliable. You can do groups better than texting. And that's, I think, why a lot of people are using it. And it's more affordable in a lot of places. So, anyone who you text, whether it's someone who is your closest friend or your family, down to someone who has a store that you want to buy something from, people feel comfortable and use WhatsApp to text those people. Now, Messenger is kind of a different community, right? Messenger is all about, today at least, your Facebook friends, right? So you're probably a little bit less likely to be friends with that guy who owns the store to message them on Facebook Messenger. So maybe we'll get there eventually, but we're not there yet. And similarly, you're probably more likely to have in your Facebook friends someone you went to college with or high school with who maybe you're not as close with today, whereas maybe you don't have their current phone number, right? And you're not connecting with them on WhatsApp, but when it's their birthday and you want to reach out and say hi or see how they're doing, you hit them up on Facebook Messenger. And the styles are also pretty different too. So WhatsApp is really focused on being a utility, right? So fast, simple, not a lot of frills. Messenger is very focused on expression, more fun, different kinds of formats, different kind of stuff like that. So we think that the right strategy over time is not to combine them, but to have each play to their strengths. Both services have more than 1 billion people using them. Like we talked about before, I think there are 5 billion people in the world who text today. So we have a lot of work to do. And we'll talk later.
Okay.
But that only works for the first person who does it.
No more pitch questions. Okay, so I'm going to ask you this question up here because I think it's a question that's near and dear to everyone because we got so many of them.
All right.
So that it's a really difficult question, so get yourself prepped. Okay, Chioma posted this, but many other people did. Have you had time to try any Nigerian food? Specifically, she recommended pounded yam, gari, egusi, jollof, roasted goat meat, washed down with palm wine.
You can stay up here for this one because you know the answer. So, last night I got into Lagos and I'm talking to our team, right? So Ime, who you know, Abele, Emeka, and we're sitting down to get food. I'm like, all right, I want to have traditional Nigerian food, right? So they start. So you show up and you have like a ton of different things, right? So the jollof rice and shrimp, delicious, delicious. The pounded yam, just kind of. Ime tells me, you got to do it with one hand. I'm like, all right, come on. I just got here. Give me 2 hands to make the spoon with the yam, get into the soup.
Can I interrupt to say, expert. Mm-hmm. So after 1 or 2, one-handed, he even had tied his abata and put it over the side like that, and scooping expertise.
So I'm eating the soup, and I reach in, and I pull out a piece of meat, and I'm like, all right, this is goat. This is awesome. But then there's another thing. So I'm like, all right, so what's that? And Ime and Abele kind of look at each other. Right? My 2 American-born Nigerian friends here. And they look at each other like, what have we done? Because it's snail. And they give me this look like, this is a mistake because we don't eat this. Now I want to give Emeka a shout-out because he does. And I'm like, look, all right, guys. I don't come to Nigeria often. We're eating the snail.
Well done.
So Ime and Abele are like, all right, I guess we can try this. And I was like, well, you don't eat snail? It was delicious. It was good. I love it. That's one of my favorite parts of going to new countries is getting to learn about the culture and eating the food. I really appreciate you guys sharing that with me. It was a fun experience, and I was told not to compare the jollof rice with that of other neighboring countries. So I think we'll just stop it there. But
I think we can stop there.
It was a good experience. It was a good experience. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, snail is good. I can testify.
Absolutely.
So, we'll take a question from the room. And I think, Vincent, you have a question?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much. My name is Vincent Okeke. I'm founder of the Vichy Services. I run an e-learning portal, Dovilane. And my question is this. Facebook is doing a lot of great job. I see myself as one of the biggest fans. But what steps are the team taking to make Facebook also serve as a learning resource, a learning platform where businesses and entrepreneurs can resort to get training materials for professional skills? Thank you very much.
Yeah, this is a great question and something we care a lot about, both at Facebook and at my philanthropy foundation, the Zuckerberg Initiative. So, Facebook, we're doing a bunch of things, right? So one is we have this FB Start program, which is, it's a little bit less about training and more just about equipping entrepreneurs and developers with the tools that they need to kind of get started on their own, right? And I think a lot of you guys are probably pretty familiar with this. In terms of education, I'm pretty interested in a few different things. One is personalized learning. So giving everyone in the world the skills, the tools that they need to learn at the pace that they want, right? So let's say you get math really easily so you can get ahead really quickly and get really advanced, but when it comes to history, it takes you a little longer, right? You should be able to learn at your own pace and learn with the materials that help you the best, right? So some people learn better by watching a video or working with their partners or by talking to someone or doing practice problems. You should be able to do whatever you want. And one of the things that we're doing is building software that gives people the power and gives teachers the power to give that kind of personalized learning experience to all their students. And we're live with that in more than 100 schools in the US. So I'm excited about that. And across the continent here, the Zuckerberg Initiative has actually made 2 investments that I'm really proud of. So the first is Andela, which is basically, it's this training program where people can join and apply, even if they don't have any engineering experience at all, right? And the premise of Andela is that talent is evenly distributed around the world. And just because someone hasn't had the opportunity to learn engineering, it doesn't mean that they're not going to be a great engineer. And the Andela folks have basically built this program to take you in a month or two from being, maybe not even knowing anything about engineering to being a professional engineer who can work with large companies around the world and on highly effective teams. So that is something that I'm really excited about because that's going to scale and I think train tens of thousands of engineers here on the continent. I mean, they have 2 big centers here in Lagos and others around the continent, but that's one that I'm pretty excited about. Another one that we invest in is called Bridge International Academy. And that's more of a primary school. And the idea there is the founders thought that they could build a better school for the same cost as going to a public school, right? So even though public school is supposed to be free, you still need to buy the textbooks and you need to buy the uniform and all this stuff. So if the founders kind of came up with this idea that if for the same amount of cost that it took to do that, to go to a public school, if they could build a private school that performed a lot better, then that could be something that could spread all over the world. And they started in Kenya and now have hundreds of different schools with tens of thousands of students, including now in Nigeria and Uganda as well. And it's a really inspiring model, I think. It's a great testament to the kind of work and entrepreneurship that's happening here on the continent. And I'm looking forward to doing more investing here. And I think that there's a lot more stuff like this that is going to make sure that opportunity ends up being as equally distributed as talent is around the world.
Okay, hands up. I'll take another question from the room. Let's see, wait, hang on. Okay. You guys are going to make me walk.
I'm not sure she's ever going to get to the front.
Wait, is there one all the way up here? Okay. Sorry.
Tough
I'm going to go up
decisions.
here. Okay, can you come this way?
We can get to both.
I'm going to hang on to the mic.
Okay.
Don't make me fight.
First of all, thank you for making Nigeria your first port of call. My name is Amechi Okobi, and I work at a bank, Access Bank. You essentially predicted the future many years ago with Facebook. What do you see happening 10 years from now? Part A. Part B, how does Mark want to be remembered?
Oh.
That's it.
Thank you. So one of my favorite technology quotes is that the best way to predict the future is to create it. Right? So I think the future can actually go in a lot of different directions, right? And I think what gets made is not necessarily a foregone conclusion, right? There's one of my other favorite sayings is that it's much easier to predict what's going to happen in the world 20 or 25 years in the future than to predict what's going to happen 5 years in the future. And the reason for that is that, there might be some big themes that play out over 20, 30, 40 years, but, how they happen, what mix of products and services get built and who builds them and where they come from is not, I don't think that that's written ahead of time. So, the mission that I care about at Facebook is still very much the same as in the beginning, right? It's just that in the beginning I didn't think that we were going to do it, whereas now I think we might. It's when I was getting started, in college, when you're a college student, you can talk about connecting the whole world, but you don't actually think about stuff like spreading internet to people who don't have it, right? I mean, you're a college student, right? I mean, you're happy if some people on the internet use your service, right? It's but now, here we are 10 or 12 years later, and we are past more than 1 billion people using the service, almost 2 billion, and we built a company that's pretty successful at this point, and that we make enough money so we can actually make long-term investments in things like connectivity, where we can invest billions of dollars in advance that may not be profitable for us for 10, 15, 20 years down the road, but we know are the right things, right? I mean, we know that everyone needs connectivity. It's not the only thing they need, but it's that empowers entrepreneurs and people to connect, and I think that through those investments that we're making in partnership with nonprofits and mobile operators and governments around the world, I think that this dream of actually getting every person in the world connected is possible within our generation, within our lifetime. And I think that's there are a lot of opportunities in the world, and there are also a lot of problems that I think would be solved by people just having more empathy and understanding more about what's going on in the lives of other people. And I hope that as we as a community are able to spread connectivity, that we can as a community help take on some of those problems. And if we do that, then I will feel very good about my life.
All right. So we have a question from Peter, who is not here, and it's a very important question, Mark. So it asks, what is Facebook's plan for media, news, and publishing platforms in Nigeria who are currently going through the transformation from newsprint to online?
Yeah, so one of the big things that I think we need to do to help connect everyone is make sure that there's good content representing all cultures and all languages. Right, we were talking about this a little bit ago, how the internet, in order for it to be useful, you need to have content that you understand and want to interact with. And that is not just your friends sharing stuff, although I think that that's a really important part of it, but also news, things that you want to learn about, read, and movies and videos and entertainment content. So one of the things that I'm the most excited about for my trip to Lagos is going to check out Nollywood, right? Because I think it really is from everything that I've heard, and I hope I'm not disproven on this, but it really sounds like a national treasure, and I think the ability to produce content that is video, that is moving and emotional, that transcends boundaries, and I think will help tell a story that is not just entertaining and interesting to people who live here, but tells the story of the amazing innovation and entrepreneurship and engineering and culture that is going on here to the whole world. And I do believe, after being here, even for a short period of time, the energy, there is no way that this place doesn't end up shaping the way that things get built around the world. And I think that once people appreciate that, then I think the whole world's going to be better off. So I'm looking forward to that.
So I'm going to take another question from the room, a very, very good one. You, ma'am, can you come this way, though? Yes. Yeah, you. So say your name, where you're from, ask your question.
I can come up here and shake your hand. Hi. Sir, close. The perks of being near the front. Abella might not get up here very often. But when she does, you get a handshake.
Great. Hello, Mark. My name is Uche Pedro. I'm the founder of Bella Niger. It's a media tech company based in Lagos. So, Mark, you started Facebook over a decade ago. A bunch of people started startups around that time. Today, we all know the success that Facebook has attained. If you were to name one thing that was the game changer for you that you did differently, what would that be?
So I think when you're an entrepreneur, I think one of the most important things is just staying focused on learning as much as you can, right? Because you never know as much as you need to in the beginning, no matter what, right? I mean, this was especially true for me. I mean, I started, I was 19, right? I was a college student. I didn't know anything about business. I'd never built an engineering system at large scale. There was all the stuff that I didn't know. So the only way that we were going to succeed was if I focused not on what I thought I knew, but on just making sure that I learned everything else as quickly as possible. And the secret here is that learning is a process where you try things and you fail. And I think a lot of times people ask questions like, what's the biggest mistake that you made and how can you avoid that? And I actually don't think that's the point, right? You shouldn't be afraid of failure. You should fail and learn from it and just make sure that you're doing what you can to learn as quickly as possible. And I do think that that's why Facebook has been able to evolve so much, right? It started off as a service for college students that was basically just profiles, that was mostly text, didn't have news feed, right? That came a couple of years in. Now there's news feed. It's made this transition from text to photos, now to being more and more videos. It's made the transition from colleges to everyone around the world. It's made the transition from PC to mobile. And you only do that if you're really focused on learning, right? And I think a lot of times people think that these things are a straight line, but the best entrepreneurs and the best organizations that I've seen are just like obsessively focused on learning as much as they can every day. And I think you guys know this. I mean, you're as engineers and entrepreneurs and developers, you don't have the success that you're having without making mistakes along the way and without rebounding from them. And that takes a certain persistence and mindset that you're going to get it done. And that's what I see here. But I think if you just stay focused on that, you succeed.
Great. So we'll take another question from the room. I feel so powerful right now. Okay, so.
The power to disappoint so many people.
Sorry, my name is Ade Atawatele. I'm a developer turned entrepreneur. Congratulations, you recently became a parent.
Thank you.
I'm a parent too.
Congratulations to you.
My daughter is a graduate of the CC Hub.
Awesome.
She's been there for 2 years. She didn't go this year. This year she started building websites. My question is that Facebook is a really individualistic platform. What are you going to do if you're trying to connect the whole world to integrate families?
Well, a lot of what I think is most powerful about Facebook is that it gives people the power to stay connected no matter where they are. Right, so some of the most touching stories that I hear, and one of the awesome things about being me is I get to walk down the street and people just interrupt me and tell me stories about how they're using Facebook, which is really, really touching. Right? I mean, I'll just be walking down the street in some city and someone will say, hey, I met my wife on Facebook and now we have this child. And it's like, holy crap. Right? And it's like, all right, you're talking about integrating families. I mean, it's like, all right, feel pretty good. So, people will write in with stories about how, they have a twin who is separated at birth, or, an adoptive parent who they haven't been connected to for a while, who they found on Facebook. And I mean, this stuff is just, it's so heartwarming, right? I mean, it's like, you're just like, all right, this is awesome. This is what connecting the world is all about. But for me, it's more day-to-day, right? My sister lives on the other side of the country from me, where I live in California. She lives in New York. I wouldn't get to hear from her as often as I would want. I wouldn't get to see what's going on with her sons, right? Unless she was posting photos on Facebook and in our family group. I see a lot more that way than I do from, when I occasionally make it out to New York or she makes it out to California. Right now, I'm here and I love being here, but I miss my daughter, right? And, but being able to get photos sent to me, from Priscilla's mother who's with her, and even videos of her swinging on a swing. It's like, that makes my day, right? And so I think that is the power of connectivity, I think, right? It's, we all will always prefer being face-to-face with the people we care about. But when you can't be, you need tools to help you do that. And if we can help build some of those tools and make it so the world feels just a bit smaller and that we can make those connections and help people build families, then, at the end of the day, that's something that we're really proud of and, I think is a really important part of the story of what's going on the internet.
Okay, so I hate to disappoint you, but I'm going to ask one that came in from the thread, and it is very relevant to what you're just talking about. So Mahasin Quadri asked, what is your current diaper changing speed record, and have you ever been challenged to a diaper changing duel yet? And did you win?
All right, so there were a number of questions in there. First one, speed record. Well, you're going to have to divide that up, right? It's if it's pee or not pee, then it's a stickier situation, literally. I think I'm probably sub 20 seconds on pee. So, I'm feeling pretty good. I haven't been challenged to a duel, but, being pretty competitive, as you saw earlier with the imaginary chess match where I got really way too upset when I lost a chess match that didn't actually happen. I have a feeling that if there were a diaper-changing duel, I'd be pretty competitive. What was the last question in there?
The last question was, have you been challenged and did you win?
All right, so no, and I don't know. I guess we'd have to see. But I like my odds.
Can I just add an add-on? So you're saying you're so great at changing diapers. Obviously, I have my doubts, having changed many of my own. But I'm curious, do you have tips, particularly for those of us who have, not those of us, those of y'all who have not started changing diapers? Are there tips that you would like to pass along?
So, here's the secret, right, that I wish someone told me first. You got to slide the new diaper in before you take the old one off.
Okay.
I see all the parents. You guys know what I'm talking about. I mean, because then, it's really going to slow you down, right? I mean, you go from a routine diaper change to a whole outfit change real quick.
All right, so we'll take one more from the room. We'll give the front some love.
All right, here we go.
Come on, okay. So let's land here.
Good to meet you.
Great. Oh,
Hey. All right, sure. Absolutely.
Fantastic. I'm so happy to meet you. My name is Inkiru Balong, and I just want to say generally for Nigerians, we're not excited by anybody. So if I saw Michael Jackson, I'd be like, hi. And I'm
Even
excited
now
to
that he's dead, you wouldn't be...
I'd be like, hi, seriously. I'd be like, hi. So, 2 things. Can you please tell Sheryl Sandberg that she is our hero here? I mean, some of us anyway, we're dying to meet her. So if she'll come, that would be amazing. Yay!
Yeah. She is a hero.
Yeah, she is amazing. So just so that we're not all on PC, we've been PC so far. I just wanted to say something that sort of like really bothered some of us here. So when you chose to launch in South Africa, we were really disappointed because it sort of feels like people think that South Africa is really the core of Africa, and it's not. I mean, it is part of us. I'm so sorry, South Africans. I apologize.
Shots fired.
I apologize.
Shots fired.
I'm sorry, South Africans, but it's not.
It's like we're not saying our Jollof is better.
It's not. It's not even third world, you know. And so, really, we sort of think that Facebook has missed a lot of opportunities on the continent, and I wanted to sort of for you to think about how you could address them. I think that your staff are doing phenomenal, but they're really understaffed. And I wanted to know your ideas for Africa in particular and Nigeria.
Yeah, so I think you're right. Although, when you're building something, I think you can. I try not to think of things as missed opportunities as much as things that we just haven't done yet, right? And so there's certainly a lot more that we need to do, right? So here in Nigeria, there are, I think it's 18 million people use Facebook, right? So there's a lot more to go, right? I think a little fewer than that use WhatsApp, right? There's a lot more to go there, right? And that's the biggest country on the continent for us. So part of the reason why I'm here now, although this trip is primarily focused on entrepreneurship and developers, is that this is where I think a lot of the future is going to get built, right? And so I think you have to hopefully have patience with us, right? Because I think we're not going to build it, right? I mean, you guys are, and we want to do our part. We want to help invest in connectivity and help connect everyone here. And if I'm back in a few years or 5 years and we haven't made a lot more progress, then I'm going to be pretty disappointed. But I think we're at the beginning of this journey. And but I think the key thing that I think a lot of you guys get so clearly is that connectivity, the economy here, it isn't fundamentally going to be built by companies like Facebook, right? I mean, we have a service that we can provide, and we can empower people here, and we're proud of the role that we can play. But the reason why I wanted to be with you guys here today is that you're building this, and I think that's the key thing. And I don't know. I think that the more that we can do to help empower folks here to build the future, that's the better that we can do. Now, does that mean we're going to have to invest more in the future? Of course, we will. We will. We need to. We need to do more. And my hope is the next time I'm here, we'll be a lot further along on that with a lot more than 18 million people in the community here and across the continent. But 18 million is not a bad start, and it's actually pretty good. Pretty good. So thank you.
Okay, so I'm going to take one from the room. I'm just going to let everyone know this is the last question. So this question must be an incredibly great question. Do not embarrass me. Make it amazing. Make it full of insight. I'll pick you. Is it amazing? Okay, come on.
Hi, my name is Nkem Bell, and I run an IT service company called FutureSoft. And we offer social media management services to our clients. So you just said 18 million people are on Facebook. So from a business perspective, and for getting small and medium-sized businesses onto Facebook, at the moment there is somewhat a barrier to entry, right? Especially with the current Naira to dollar rate. because as a business, you kind of need to have spend in order to actually grow your community on Facebook. So how can you guys actually lower that barrier to entry to get more businesses onto Facebook, because they will bring more people onto Facebook as well. And I'm guessing Instagram is going the same route that Facebook is going. And at the moment, conversion rates that we're seeing on Instagram are incredibly higher than on Facebook, because you don't have to pay for it, right? So once it gets paid, that will go down, and it will have an immense impact on small and medium-sized businesses if that actually happens. So how can you guys help us to get more SMEs onto Facebook and Instagram, to actually help you guys grow the community? Because I think it's going to be driven from those small and medium-sized businesses. Thank you.
Great question. Before you sit down, I got to shake your hand. Thank you. So, this is a good question, right? And growing small businesses, I think, is a really important part of all these communities. And one of the things that we're most proud of at Facebook is that 60 million businesses have pages across the world. There's nothing like that that's ever happened in the history of the world, where 60 million businesses use some platform for free to reach their customers, right? So that's something that, a big part of our mission is giving folks who are just getting started the same tools that traditionally only bigger companies would have had access to, right? So there was a time when you had to, only a bigger company could build an app and get on the phone, and now anyone can be in the most used app, right, in Newsfeed, if people connect with you. There was a time when only big companies could afford to do the kind of analytics that now is free, right, on these services. And that's, I think, one of the big things. It levels the playing field and makes it so that talented people anywhere can build. As you're saying, when a page gets started in a community, you get free distribution, right? So as you're growing, people connect, and you don't have to pay to reach them. Once a community gets bigger, and there's more competition for what's in Newsfeed, because people have a lot more friends and they're connected to a lot more businesses, then you either need to produce better content, right, to earn its spot in Newsfeed, or pay. But by that time, hopefully, if you're in at the ground floor, you've kind of built up that community and have your reach. I want to talk about something else besides pages as well, which is what we're doing with developers to help give tools to help get off the ground. And one of the big things that we're really proud of, the part that we can play, is FB Start, right? Where we go around the world and we work with developers in all these different cities to give them access to free tools. We give them free access to tools that would otherwise cost money to help grow their business and get started. So it's everything from thousands of dollars of ad credits. So that way, if you want to advertise to get your page content into Newsfeed, you can. And you're building a tech business, and you're in FB Start, so you're not paying for that. You're getting those ad credits for free. To things like getting free cloud infrastructure, right, through our partnership with Amazon, right? I mean, that's the infrastructure is a big cost of building a new service, and one of the things that we want to do is reduce those barriers to getting started, so that way anyone who's talented, who has an idea, who has the grit, who wants to push through and try to build something, can get that start, right? And what I found from my experience, the hardest thing is getting to that initial product market fit, right? So you can do that in a dorm room, right? I mean, by the time that I left Harvard, we already had tens of thousands of people using Facebook, and it didn't cost a whole lot to run. I was renting servers, I think, for $89 a month or something like that, and I was paying for with banner ads that we had on the side of the site. And then once we'd shown that it was going to work and it was going to scale, then there's a lot of investment, and people are going to chase after the next idea once you've proven that that's going to work. So a lot of what we're trying to do, both with Pages and with FB Start, is giving people the tools to get off the ground and get that product market fit, so that you can kind of show to the world what you're going to build, and then you kind of scale it and take it from there. But it's a great question. I think it's the perfect way to end this session today, which I've wanted to focus on developers and entrepreneurs. That's why I'm here. We're broadcasting this live on Facebook now, so people all around the world are watching this, which I think is important, because I think people around the world need to see this. right? I mean, they need to see how much energy there is here and how good and strong the community is. You guys are all doing awesome work. It's an honor for me to be here. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to meeting you guys for the rest of the day.